crowd burst into 1,000 conversations and scattered. And not long after that, the elevators were working. During the years when the cable was extruding from Clark, robots had been spidering along it, constructing the power lines, safety cables, generators, superconducting piece, maintenance stations, defense stations, position adjustment rockets, fuel tanks, and emergency shelters that marked the cable every few kilometers. This work had proceeded at the same pace as the cable construction itself, so that soon after touchdown, the cars were running up and down, 400 of them going in each direction, like parasites on a strand of hair. Ooh. And a few months after that, you could take an elevator into orbit, and you could take another elevator down out of orbit to the surface. And down they came, transported from Earth by the fleet of continuous shuttles. Those big spaceships that boomed around the Earth-Venus-Mars system. Each of the 13 operating ships held 1,000 people, and they were full every trip out. So there was a continuous stream of people docking on Clark, descending in elevator cars, and debarking into the socket. And then pouring into Sheffield's concourses, wild and unsteady and bug-eyed with gawking, as they were herded with some difficulty to the train station, and on to trains outbound. Why waste a valuable elevator for getting down? Are they short on parachutes? Yes. It's actually the nylon crisis of 2057. Don't make jokes. Bug-eyed with gawking, as they were herded with some difficulty to the train station and on to trains outbound. Most of these trains then... Most of these trains then emptied their loads into the Pavonis tent towns. At least he didn't say Pavonis Mons. Okay, most of these trains then emptied their loads into the Pavonis tent towns. Robot crews were building the tents just fast enough to house the influx, and the completion of 2 new pipelines had secured the water supply on Pavonis, which was being pumped up from the Compton Aquifer beneath Noctis Labyrinthus. So the emigrants settled in. And back in the socket, on the other side of the cable, upbound elevator cars were being loaded with refined materials: platinum, gold, uranium, silver. And then the cars swung in and locked onto the piste, and up they rose again, accelerating slowly to their full speed of 300 kilometers an hour. 5 days later, they arrived at the top of the cable, now a much tunneled chunk of carbonaceous chondrite. Oh, shit. I skipped like a whole line. Five, or not? I did. 5 days later, they arrived at the top of the cable and decelerated into locks inside the ballast asteroid Clark. Now a much-tunneled chunk of carbonaceous chondrite. So filigreed with exterior buildings and interior chambers that it seemed more a spaceship or a city than Mars' third moon. It was a busy place. There was a continuous procession of incoming and outgoing ships, and crews perpetually in orbit, perpetually in transit, as well as a large force of local traffic controllers, using some of the most powerful AIs in existence. Though most of the operations involving the cable were computer-controlled and robotically accomplished, entire human professions were springing up to direct and oversee these efforts. And of course, media coverage of all the new imagery was immediate and intense. And all in all, despite the decade of waiting, it seemed that on touchdown, the elevator had sprung into being like Athena. This book was written back when people still expected AIs to be smart. All right, you think you're being clever, but you're not. All right, man. It's really a shame. It's really a fucking shame, dude. It's really a fucking shame. I keep reading this and I'm like, God damn it, dude. Elon Musk is he's gonna pitch the space elevator like next month, dude. It's happening. But there was trouble. Frank found that his staff was spending more and more time dealing with men and women from the tents, who had come into Sheffield and right into their offices. New arrivals who were sometimes nervous, sometimes loud and angry, rattling on about crowded living conditions, or insufficient police, or bad food. One bulky, red-faced man wearing a baseball cap shook a finger at them and said, "Private security companies come in from tents higher up and offer protection, but they're just gangs. It's just extortion. I can't even give you my name, or our security might find out I came here. I mean, I believe in the black economy as much as the next guy, but this is crazy. This isn't what we came here for." Frank paced his office, seething. These kinds of allegations were clearly true, but difficult to verify without a security team of one's own. A big police force, in fact. When the man left, he grilled his staff, but they could tell him nothing new, which made him even angrier. Yeah, space elevators is an old idea, but we do not have the technology. We do not hear much from nanotechnology much anymore either. It seems to be stagnating a bit. Yeah, dude, because your mind is small. Or, I mean, like not your mind, but, like, your perspective is small, man. Dude, that didn't stop Elon Musk. You just gotta imagine what you can do. We're going to expand your consciousness. Dude, your consciousness is constricted by all this, what is it? Not having the technology for it. Psh, that's the mother of necessity. I mean, necessity is the mother of invention. Yeah, material science hasn't kept up because we're too We're too busy building cat eating hamburger machines. Computer. Computer, show me cat eating hamburger now. We're too busy doing that. Computer, manipulate my grandmother. She's getting real uppity lately. Please direct her mind onto important things like cats wearing crochet sweaters. My grandma would love that. Computer. And then make the cat sad. It shall be so. Dude, I'm literally so depressed. Oh my god. We are living in such a fucked up, world. Congratulations. Anyways, Donald Trump will save us. What a time to be alive. Anyways, let's deal with these immigrants. These kinds of allegations were clearly true, but difficult to verify without a security team of one's own. A big police force, in fact. When the man left, he grilled his staff, but they could tell him nothing new, which made him even angrier. You're paid to find these things out for me. That's your job. What are you doing sitting around in here all day watching Terran news? He canceled a day's appointments, 37 meetings in all. Lazy, incompetent bastards, he said loudly as he stalked out of the front door, or as he stalked out of the door. He went to the train station, caught a local downslope to have a look for himself. The local train now stopped every kilometer of the desert. The descent. A local train now stopped every kilometer of the descent. In small stainless steel locks that served as stations for the tent towns. He walked through the open doors of the passage lock. AI Laurie hooping was so cool 10 years ago when Terrans fought for basic freedoms or whatever. Hello. Shut up, bot. Hi. Hello, friend. Okay, anyways, he walked through, the local train stopped every kilometer in small stainless steel locks that served as stations for the tent towns. He got out in one. Signs in the lock identified it as El Paso. He walked through the open doors of the passage lock. At least these tents had a view. There was no denying that. Down the great eastern slope of the volcano ran the train piste. Can they stop saying piste? It's very hard for me to read this. Down the great eastern slope of the volcano ran the train piste and the pipelines. And on either side of them, tent after tent, like blisters. The clear fabric of the older ones upslope was already turning a bit purple. Ventilators hummed loudly from the physical plant next to the station. And from somewhere, a hydrazine generator was adding its high hum. People were conversing in Spanish and English. Frank called his office and got them to ring the apartment of a man from El Paso who had dropped in to complain. The man answered, and Frank arranged to meet him at a cafe next to the station, then walked over and sat at an outer table. Men and women sat around tables eating and talking like anywhere else. Little electric cars hummed up and down the narrow streets, most piled high with boxes. The buildings near the station were 3 stories tall and appeared prefab, steel-reinforced concrete painted bright blue and white. There was a line of young trees in tubs running away from the station down the main thoroughfare. Thoroughfare. Small groups sat on the AstroTurf, or walked aimlessly from shop to shop, or hurried with shoulder bags and day packs towards the station. All of them looked a bit disoriented, as if they had no habits, or had not yet learned to walk properly. The man showed up with a whole crowd of his neighbors, all in their 20s, too young to be on Mars, or so it used to be said. Perhaps the treatment could fix damage from radiation, allow them to reproduce accurately. Who could say for sure until they tried? Laboratory animals. That's what they were. What they had always been. It was strange to stand among them, like some ancient patriarch, treated with a mixture of awe and condensation. Not condensation. It was strange to stand among them like some ancient patriarch, treated with a mixture of awe and condescension, like a grandpa. John would have loved being a grandpa. Okay, anyways, I'm gonna keep going with our anti-hero, Frank. Do those ultra smart mice ever make an appearance in this book again? No, they weren't ultra smart. They were ultra living. That's literally the appearance of the book, is that they cured old age. And that's also what is making everything on Earth so much worse. I imagine that Mars created a vaccine for old age to compensate for the radiation. And like how much radiation was going to like shrink your balls and make your penis not work anymore. But then they accidentally discovered that it also makes you live 3 times as long. Oh, I don't know. I don't think that was in my copy. The mice carried the ultimate answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything. Excuse me. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Frank is going... Okay, I'm about to cry because this feels like real life. Okay, laboratory animals. That's what they were. What they had always been. It was strange to stand among them like some ancient patriarch, treated with a mixture of awe and condescension, like a grandpa. Irritably, he told them to take him on a walk. And show him around. They guided him down narrow streets, away from the station and the taller buildings, between long rows of what turned out to be AG huts, designed for temporary shelter in the outer lands. research outposts, or water stations, or refugee huts, now lined up by the score. The slope of the volcano had been hastily graded, and a lot of the huts were on a 2 or 3 degree slope, so that they had to be careful in the kitchens, they said, and make sure their beds aligned properly. Frank asked them what they did. Stevedores in Sheffield What? Stevedores. Stevedores? Okay, somebody, Purple Wayne, I can't believe you didn't explain this yet. Stevedores in Sheffield, most replied. Steve doors? French doors? Most of us are French doors in Sheffield. Am I pronouncing it right? I got that. I got that they unload and offload things, although I haven't read that far for you guys to understand it yet, but I don't know how to pronounce it. Steve doors in Sheffield, most replied, offloading the elevator cars and getting stuff on trains. Stevedores? Wow, thank you. They're a contractor engaged at a dock to load and unload cargo from ships. Offloading the elevator cars and getting the stuff on trains. Robots were supposed to do it, but it was surprising how much labor remained in the process for human muscle. Heavy equipment operations, robot programmers, machine repairmen, Waldo dwarves, construction workers. I miss Nadia. Construction workers. Most of them had rarely gotten out onto the surface. Some of them never had. They had done similar kinds of work back home, or had been unemployed, just like Nadia. Or had been unemployed. This was their chance. Most wanted to return to Earth. Most wanted to return to Earth someday. But the gyms were crowded and expensive and time-consuming, and they were all losing their tone. They had southern accents that Frank hadn't heard since childhood. It was like hearing voices from a previous century. Like listening to Elizabethans. Do people still talk that way? TV never revealed it. Y'all been here so long, you don't mind being indoors, but I can't stand it. Can't stand it. Frank glared into a kitchen. What do you eat? He demanded. Fish, vegetables, rice, tofu. It all came in bulk packages. They had no complaints. They thought it was good. Americans. The most degraded palates in history. Somebody give me a cheeseburger. Somebody give me a cheeseburger. No, what they minded was the confinement, the lack of privacy, the teleoperation, the crowding together, and the resulting problems. All my stuff got stole. The day after I got here. Me too. Me too. Theft, assault, extortion. The criminals all came from the other tent towns, they said. Russians, they said. White folks with strange talk. Some black folks, too. But not so many here as at home. A woman had been raped the previous week. You're kidding, Frank said. What do you mean you're kidding? A woman said, disgusted at him. Eventually, they led him back to the station. Pausing in the door, Frank didn't quite know what to say to them. Quite a crowd had gathered. People had recognized him or been drawn into the group. I'll see what I can do, he muttered, and ducked through the passage lock. Thoughtlessly, he stared into tents as he rode a train back up. There was one fitted with coffin hotels, Tokyo style. That would be much more crowded than El Paso, but did its occupants care about that? Some people were used to being treated like ball bearings. A lot of people, in fact. But on Mars, it was supposed to be different. But on Mars, it was supposed to be different. Back in Sheffield, he stalked the rim concourse, staring at the thin vertical line of the elevator, ignoring other people and forcing some of them to jump out of his way as he paced. Once he stopped and looked at the crowd. There were perhaps 500 people in view at that moment, living their lives. When had it gotten like this? They had been a scientific outpost, a handful of researchers, scattered over a world with as much surface land, with as much land surface as the Earth. A whole Eurasia, Africa, America, Australia, Antarctica. All for them. All that land was still out there. But what percentage of it was under tents and inhabitable? Much less than 1%. And yet, what was Unoma saying? 1 million people here already, with more on the way. And so, police and crime. Or rather, crime without police. Humans supposed to change because they're on another planet? No. It's not human nature. It is human system. Now shut up, everybody. Because I have a feeling I'm going to be very annoyed until we finish this book. And even then, who knows? My ills may never be solved. And so police and crime. Or rather, crime without police. 1 million people and no law. No law, but corporate law. The bottom line. Minimize expenses, maximize profits. Run smoothly on ball bearings. Okay, I have to pee again. And Literally, we have like one more. I have to read like one. We're like right here. Okay. And if I read one more page, we'll finish this like section. So I'm going to try to do that, but I have to pee. And I also might go smoke a cigarette and stare at the moon. But you know I love you. I don't hate being alive. It's okay. Thank you.